can't not talk about Bolter, the beer brand, because, one of my good mates told me about when you guys first started this thing off, and I'm thinking, why the fuck did you invite me, Inch?
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
for
remember when
you.
it happened, like years back, and he told me about it. And where did that idea come from for the beer brand, the beer business, as a craft beer?
Yeah, so we were flying over to Hawaii for the last event of the year in 2014, and B. Durbridge rings me and he's like super nervous. He goes, "Oh, I'd love to just chat to you about something." And I was like, "Oh, just ask." And he goes, "No, I want to do it in person." I'm like, "Okay."
So you had a pitch.
Yeah, so we're in the Qantas Club, just about to get on a plane to Hawaii, and he's like,
And what was he to you then?
he was a competitor,
Right.
but good mate on tour.
Yep.
And so he's like, "Would you like to start a craft beer brand?" And I was at that point and I was like, "Yeah, why not? Like, what's the worst that can happen? You get free beer for life, right?"
Yeah.
You know? And so it sort of just started like that. And then from there, it just started growing in the sense that, we had a meeting. Like, Bede was like, "Do you reckon Parker will get involved?" I was like, "I'll just tell him he has to be." And so we sort of just, between Bede, Parker, Josh Kerr, and myself, we sort of had a nucleus of, all right, let's start hashing this out and seeing where we can take it. And then we're lucky enough to go and start putting the right people that we felt that we could trust and to do an incredible job. And so
As investors, Mick, or as just in terms of operations?
operations
Yes.
operations is always first.
Yeah. Like, in other words, who's the person going to build the beer recipe and all that sort of, like,
Yeah,
your brewer?
yeah. So we started off talking to a marketing guy in Sterling Harland who did a lot of stuff for Billabong. He did Nimble. He did a whole bunch of different things. And I rang him and he was like, "I was just about to start my own beer website." And I was like, "Well, now you can just start your own beer brand." And then from there, we were sort of looking for CEO and someone who could take over the operations. And I put forward Ant McDonald. He was my former team manager at Red Bull, and he had done everything like under the sun. We'd surfed together on tour, but then he'd, through all the different paths of his life, he went from, knocking on people's doors as a real estate agent, getting told,
Hustle.
yeah, trying to get effed off every
Yeah.
doorstep.
By the way, that's a big skill to learn.
Yeah, but then also, like, his last thing before we nabbed him, he started his own restaurant in Cronulla, and the first day he's gone to serve a coffee and just spilt it everywhere, and he was
Wow.
just like, "You know what? This part isn't for me. I'm going to go and do the dishes and look after the money." And he would do dishes all day, and that sort of work ethic was sort of like, I knew he was smart enough to be better than a dish pig. But yeah, and he was always that person that if he didn't know something, he'd be able to learn it with the people he was doing it. And that was one of the big strengths through Bolter that he did, was just he was never too cocky or never too proud to learn something. And so with that sort of nucleus, and another guy from the States, Sean Ronan, with that nucleus, we're able to start piecing together what the beer brand would look like.
As in roles. So you're, because it sounds like to me, Mick, that you and others are sitting back going, okay, what are all the roles we need to have? How can we find people we know and trust?
Yeah,
And why do we trust them?
exactly.
Because they've been through it before, or they've done something. And it sounds like it was like a building a chessboard nearly, of functions.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty important skill.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think in your life at some stage you've seen someone else do that you might have been a proxy to, you copying what they've done? How'd you know how to do that? Like, it's no one's if you went and did an MBA somewhere and they sort of gave you the theory on all this shit.
Well, it sort of just came back to how I did my career as a surfer.
Yeah.
I was the main chess piece.
Yep.
And I'd be like, well, who do I bring in? What part of my team do I need to make me better? And so it was almost,
It's like being the king on a chessboard, and how do I protect the king?
yeah, or even even simpler than that, it's like being a footy coach.
Yeah.
How am I going to build the best footy team
Yeah.
and get us to the top? And so once it came, I found business to be very similar to how I treated my surfing career.
Yeah, I
And
can see that. And
yeah,
it's funny too, because you were sort of, let's call it the leader, or one of the leaders, leading the business, like leading the ideas and leading the business. But it's more like you got people to follow you. And I don't mean that in a subservient way, but you had the ability to somehow get people to buy into the idea, buy into what you guys are doing, buy into the whole thing. I mean, how do you see leadership versus like? Because leadership's a funny concept. And some people think leaders are, oh, I got to be strident and I got to move forward, and everybody's going to, be my, part of my motivation, and I'm going to inspire them. But other people that lead by example,
Mhm.
and or by inspiration. What was your style of leadership?
I was always, I would never ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do.
Does that mean you've got to be prepared to do everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Whatever it takes.
whatever it takes. But also too, I know there's better people in different areas.
So you knew your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. And I'm comfortable enough in my own skin to say, I'm actually really bad at that.
Yeah.
I know you can do it. And so as being, we always had this thing in Bolter that no one's bigger than anyone else. Everyone, there's no egos whatsoever. And like the first night that we opened, staff wanted to go home or whatever. I was there, and I was like, no one was cleaning the floor, so I just grabbed the mop and just started mopping the floor. That's
Yeah.
when.
But did you do that to show them that you were prepared to do that, or you just thought, no, that's a job that needs to be done?
It's a job that needs to be done.
But you're aware of the fact that people will be watching you, and that
No, I just did it.
Yeah. So you weren't trying to be affectatious. What I'm trying to get to, because some
no.
people do that to put on a show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you just thought, well, this is a job that needs to be done, because all these things come back to how you got brought up, what you're like as a kid, where the sort of shit your mum and dad made you do as a kid. What do you have to do? Jobs, you got to go and do this, got to do that. Some people never experience that stuff, and they feel quite awkward with doing that as they get older. Like, and especially in business, like you said, your mate is prepared to be the dish pig, even though he owned the business.
Yeah.
Decided, I'm not going to be front of house. I've got to be back of house because I'm hopeless at the front.
Yeah.
Strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, 100%. And that humbleness as well.
Humility is so important.
Yeah.
Were you like that as a server? Did you realize what you're strong at and what you're weak at?
Yes.
Because I remember Jack Gibson telling me many, many years ago when he was alive, he said to me, son, you've got to train to your strengths and practice your weaknesses.
Sure.
And basically write them all out, and what you're good at, and be honest.
Yep.
Do it in front of somebody.
Yeah.